I'm gonna transition to something I know about. Yu-Gi-Oh!
Dope.
So, if Pokemon is like way up there in like Valhalla, not the Force of Will one, but
Different Valhalla.
yeah, and then Magic is like down there. I think Yu-Gi-Oh! Is probably somewhere in the middle, like slowly climbing. We've had the weirdest set of ups and downs. So, something I alluded to earlier. From what I understand, the morale of Magic players is going up.
Yes. Yeah. Well, yes and no. I would say with this recent set and with the onset of the Teferi Wilderness Reclamation Nexus of Fate decks, Standard's starting to see a dip again. But
overall,
as a whole, I would say yes.
Yeah, overall morale is going up, but the numbers are going down.
Yep.
Whereas in Yu-Gi-Oh, it's the opposite. The morale is going down, but the numbers are going up. So, I don't know how much you know about Yu-Gi-Oh now.
Not much, but I'm always interested.
All right.
Keep talking.
We recently got out of a pretty bad form. Well, actually, no, it wasn't even all that bad. It was just like those few. Let me start over. There's a card in the game called Firewall Dragon. I mean, when it came out, people anticipated it was pretty good. There was a lot of loops and stuff you could do with it, but it wasn't like that bad. I mean, a few new FTKs popped up, but that's with like every card in the game now, honestly. And most of those FTKs aren't viable. Mm-hmm. It's insane, actually. Some of the stuff that Yu-Gi-Oh players will come up with. Anyway, it isn't until about like a few months ago that Firewall specifically actually became like that big of a problem. We were in shortly after Sky Striker's release, we jumped into Pendulum FTK format, I believe. I forget some of the other decks that were in there. It was actually pretty diverse, all things considered, but there was like Pendulum FTK and Gem Knight FTK. That didn't use Firewall, like both of those didn't, but for, a state of the game purposes, we're in an FTK format where two separate FTKs are viable. Konami eventually fixes that. I mean, to this day, Gem Knight FTK is still a thing, but it's not all that viable.
Yeah.
I mean, it was always kind of rogue, but they definitely like snipped it a little bit. And then they outright killed Pendulum FTK. Then we jump into, I forget what that one was called, but it's another FTK. What did it use? No, it's not exactly an FTK, but it might as well be. Goki. I'm not going to go specifically, but it's a deck. You essentially summon a bunch of monsters to make it where your opponent really can't play when their turn comes around. It's not exactly an FTK, but you can't play.
Yeah.
At all. It might as well be. Firewall was definitely a big part of that.
Now, what did Firewall do?
Firewall Dragon is... You don't know anything about Link monsters. It is a monster.
It is a monster.
It points up, left, right, down. If there are monsters summoned to those areas and they are sent to the graveyard, you can summon more monsters out of your hand. This is not once per turn.
This is not... Oh, so it's as many times as it happens.
As many times as you have monsters in your hand, if something that it's pointing to leaves the field, you summon another monster from your hand.
I mean, that's a cool concept.
It's a really cool design.
Yeah.
Especially for, like, Firewall Dragon.
Right.
But in practice, wow. Konami.
What you smoking today? No, I know what you're saying, though. I mean, Magic does the same kind of thing. Force of Will does the same kind of thing. Every card game company, like, they have to take risks with it. Otherwise, everything just stales out.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I get it.
It's weird. I think... I will say, though, I think of all card games, Yu-Gi-Oh! Has probably the worst when it comes to, like, why would you ever make this?
I remember, playing Yu-Gi-Oh back, in the early 2000s. I remember when, Cyber Dragon and things like that first became a thing.
People were upset.
Yeah. Well, back before then, it was you had normal summon, and then you had tribute summon, and that was it. Nothing was ever special summoned. And now it seems there were, but it was not something that people did all the time. Actually, and now after watching portions of the game be played, it's I special summon this. I'm like, holy crap. I remember it was all right, I play this 4-star monster, and I play this other 4-star monster, and I sacrifice both of them, and I play Blue Eyes. Game. Not really game, but kind of game.
There were definitely special summons, like Blackluster Soldier and things. That was actually pretty big deal back in the day. A lot of the Chaos decks were. I need to return. So, Goki is a thing. We jump. Goki kind of gets, nipped a bit. It eventually turns into, this entire different, Dark Warrior deck. It's still got Goki in it, but now it's just Dark Warrior. After another ban list kind of neuters it a bit.
Yeah.
For a while, it's fine. And then eventually, what is it? Topologic Gumblar Dragon comes out. I should explain the mechanic before I continue. Link monsters are a new thing in the game. They're blue cards in the extra deck, and they point to different zones. From there, you can summon more monsters to those zones. Now they've kind of nerfed extra deck mechanics. Before you could summon any extra deck monster to any zone on the board. Now you have to either summon to a zone a link monster points to, or the extra monster zone. Something cool about link monsters is that if they're pointing to each other with their own arrows, they're considered linked. Something terrible that they did with that. If you have... I don't know if you've seen the Yu-Gi-Oh! Game board recently, but...
I have not. I'll pull it up on my phone.
I got it.
Oh, you got it.
Put it up on the screen or something.
Alright. So it kind of looks somewhat familiar to what it used to.
These are the extra monster zones.
Okay.
These are where you can summon the extra deck monsters. You each get one, so you choose whichever one you want to summon to whenever you get the availability. So you're not locked to just one.
Okay.
Until you actually summon something. Let's say I summon monster here, and it points down. And then I summon another link monster here, and it points let's say left and right. Okay, let's say I summon another one here, and it also points left and right. And I summon another one here, and it points up, down, left, right. I can now summon to this extra monster zone.
Oh. So you just flood the zones, basically.
And my opponent can't summon anything anymore unless my link monster happens to point to their zone.
That is dumb.
Yeah. It's called extra linking.
Okay. I can see why people would be upset with that.
Yeah, the Goki deck did that as well. That's another reason you couldn't play. And no, in fact, not only did they do that, they summoned a monster to your side of the field that said you cannot summon monsters except link monsters. So, yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, it's kind of...
Yu-Gi-Oh! Has gotten way more confusing than it was back in the day.
Definitely. So, Topologic Gumblar Dragon comes out. That card says, if this card is part of an extra link... Well, actually, no, first off, if a monster is summoned to a zone it points to, you can discard 2 cards and make your opponent discard 2 cards. But if it happens to be extra linked, you can discard, I believe it's up to 4 cards, and make your opponent discard up to 4 cards.
Nifty.
When it came out, it wasn't that bad. I guess people didn't really use it all that much. Eventually, Dark Warrior FTK arises. It doesn't use Gumblar. I mean, a few variants do, but Gumblar isn't really the problem of that deck. It's like summoning a bunch of monsters, looping them with Firewall, and then using like cannon soldier to burn your opponent before they get a chance to play. Let me check my audio.
Sounds like my kind of stuff. Kind of. I'd play a deck like that if I played Yu-Gi-Oh!
Oh boy. Get kicked out the community faster than...
I mean, I am the guy that built a Magic Commander deck that plays 41 counter spells, so... Oh. I mean, I kind of get it.
I see it. I believe Dark Warrior FTK eventually transformed to, like, Danger Dark World FTK. Actually, no, those are two separate FTKs. So there's Dark Warrior FTK, there's Danger Dark World FTK. There's all these FTKs, and they all center around this one card. Firewall Dragon. Konami hasn't really...
H2O. Good for the soul.
I guess. Konami doesn't really communicate with the fan base all that much.
Yeah, I've noticed that.
Unlike a lot of other card games. So, I mean, you can complain that, like, Channel Fireball's taken over for Magic coverage, but, like, we're lucky if we get coverage.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And then you go to, like, their, like, Twitter and Facebook, and it's all advertisements. There's no, like, what do you think about this? It's just advertisements.
Yeah. Buy this! Buy this!
By the time Danger Dark World FTK is really a thing, the community at large is upset. I think it's the first time in Yu-Gi-Oh! That a majority of the player base all rallied around one thing, and that was Firewall needs to get banned. So if you look at, like, anything they would post on, like, Facebook or Twitter, all the comments were ban Firewall, ban Firewall, ban Firewall, ban Firewall, ban Firewall.
That's one way to get your point across, I guess.
Hey, what do you think of this new car coming out? Ban Firewall, ban Firewall, ban Firewall. Insane is what it is.
I think that's a problem more with these larger card companies, though, because the whole thing with Nexus of Fate, that's kind of what's going on right now. If you look at, like, any of the Magic the Gathering
ban
Twitter,
Nexus of Fate, ban Nexus of Fate.
Yeah, it's a lot of that. Or if you listen to the stream, like any of the streamers,
ban Nexus of Fate.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same thing. It's like we all want this one thing to happen, but Wizards doesn't. So I hate to go back to this, but I forgot one major thing.
All right.
So that same admin that came out and banned the guy for looping Nexus of Fate, like 7 months ago, when the Nexus of Fate problem first became a thing, came out and said that they would not ban a card based on the fun factor alone. They would only ban a card based on card power. Mm. So the card, like by itself, it's a 7-mana card that's an instant. 7-mana instants don't really get cast in Magic, generally speaking. Like 7-mana instance with Delve, you know, where you could pay a portion of that cost, they got played a little bit more often. So that same admin that said that we're not going to ban a card based on fun banned somebody on Arena because the viewership was not having fun watching him loop Nexus of Fate, and the streamer wasn't having fun playing against Nexus of Fate. So they can say what they want, but Nexus of Fate is should be banned based on a fun factor. Kind of what it seems like Firewall is too. I know Firewall and Nexus both are very powerful cards, but it's also a fun factor involved. It's like you go to the table, somebody sits down in front of you, starts playing, and you don't even get to take a turn. And you're like, oh, okay. Well, this is fun.
So the good news is, eventually Konami does listen, and perhaps, well, it's not the greatest ban list. But at the time, it felt like the greatest ban list in history. Firewall and a few other cards that were also pretty good in the game got banned. I mean, for a while people were rejoicing, and then remember that gumblar guy I talked about? So his effect, where if a monster is summoned to his zone and you discard 2, it's actually a quick effect.
Oh, okay.
So that also became a pseudo FTK, a bit like the Goki thing, where on your turn you're making this. I mean, it's not a crazy board, but you have Gumblar, he doesn't even have to be extra linked most of the time. As long as you get his discard effect, you discard 4 cards on your turn. You have something set to where you summon a monster during the standby phase to his zone, and then he discards 2 more cards from your opponent's hand. So your opponent starts with no cards in hand.
That seems like really fun.
By the time they start their turn. I mean, certain decks could actually play through that. Like, Burning Abyss, Infernoids could probably... Oh, in fucking Danger Dark World. If you resolve that against a Danger Dark World player, you lost. The person trying to Gumblar lost. Because they all get effects when they're discarded.
Oh. Well, I mean,
but other than that, it's a pretty big problem.
So that's kind of like a counter burn, basically, that deck is. It's like, alright, well, we know what the meta is. So
I mean, it wasn't as bad as Firewall, but it was still pretty bad. Not only that, I don't know if you've seen the anime.
Yeah, well, I haven't seen the anime lately, but I've seen older...
Have you heard of Yu-Gi-Oh! GX?
Yes.
Okay. Actually, no, you probably haven't seen this specific episode. There's a card called Slash Draw that comes out in the same set that Gumblar comes out. And every person, when they saw what that card did, said, this card is terrible. So what it does is... Let me pull up the exact reading of it. You should know it's an anime card, actually.
An anime card?
Yeah.
Ooh.
There's certain cards that are like from the anime, and then there's cards that are specifically in the TCG that aren't in the anime. Slash draw. Make sure I don't get it wrong. Slashing draws. I probably should have just got up and got the card. I have a few copies of it.
Oh, so you're one of those guys too, then. That's probably all you run.
And I actually bought it for a Synchron deck I plan to build. I'm probably going to have to take it out.
What was the card called again?
Slash Draw. Oh yeah, you should probably look at the artwork. Alright. So, in case you want to look at the artwork, that's Slash Draw.
Cool.
Discard 1 card. Send cards from the top of your deck to the graveyard equal to the number of cards your opponent controls. And then draw 1 card. Then, if it was Slash Draw, you send it to the graveyard, destroy as many cards on the field as possible, and inflict 2,000 damage to your opponent for each card destroyed.
Jeez.
If the card you drew was not Slash Draw, shuffle cards from the graveyard into the deck equal to the number of cards you sent. Yeah,
Seems...
So, I mean, when it was first revealed and people saw it, it was trash. This is don't bother. This is trash. This is way too gimmicky to resolve.
Right.
And fucking shortly after Firewall's banned.
Huh. This
guy comes out with Slash Draw FTK. And what I find fascinating about this is that it's actually pretty similar to how the guy who used it in the anime used it. What he did was, this is archetype of cards called Danger. You reveal it to your opponent, and then you shuffle your hand. Your opponent picks 1 random card from your hand and discards it. If it wasn't the card you revealed, you special summon that card, and then you draw 1 card. So, and then they also have effects when they're discarded, but that part doesn't matter. What matters is that you draw 1 card. Drawing in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is something pretty rare, so having every card do that in the archetype is pretty insane.
Yeah.
They've also got a Link 4 monster. You don't know Link monsters, but it's a Link monster. If you summon it using 4 different monsters, you get to draw, I believe it's 4 cards, and then put 3 back.
Oh, I get it.
He's summoning a bunch of monsters, and he's like digging through like 80% of his deck. Then he's using like the card, specifically the Link monster is Saryuja Skuldred. He's using that card to essentially stack his deck. And then he plays Slash Draw. And then he always resolves it. It is insane.
That sounds like an interesting way. Like, I don't know if I could be mad at that. Though.
Yeah, it's. I remember when I saw that. Like, that's one of the most creative fucking FTKs I've ever seen in my life.
I mean, that's one thing that I've always like. That's kind of the reason why I got out of Yu-Gi-Oh in the first place was because of FTKs. Like, it's the one card game where it seems like they're welcomed, and I mean, like, it's just not a fun way to play.
Yeah, it's weird. Yu-Gi-Oh is there's a lot of FTKs even today.
Yeah.
So, actually, before I get into that, you should know that eventually the ban list comes. Another ban list comes and bans Gunblar and. No, they limit slash draw. Well, limiting is you put it at 1.
Yeah.
So you can't even play the card anymore.
So it's essentially banning it, but without banning it.
Yeah.
That's dumb.
Activate slash draw. I hope I draw another slash.
But I can't. Oh my god.
Yeah, it's insane. So yeah, even today there's a lot of FTKs in Yu-Gi-Oh. The problem is they're not viable.
Yeah.
Like Gemini FTK is still a thing, but it's just not viable. Why would I play that when I could play Sky Striker, which has been in the meta for about 6 months, actually.
Nice.
Or something like Thunder Dragons or stuff like that.
I still summon the powers of Exodia though, so I mean I automatically win.
There's a few Exodia FTKs actually, but They're just not viable.
I am Exodia in real life. Like I'm all buff and muscular and
especially now that hand traps are a thing.
Hand traps.
Oh yeah. You Magic players don't know. First off, Yu-Gi-Oh doesn't have a resource system, so you know.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah, that's probably why FTKs exist.
Yeah,
and why they're gonna exist.
Probably, that's a good reason.
So. Yu-Gi-Oh has gotten so fast now that unless your trap is searchable or you're playing a deck specifically that like requires you to play trap cards, you're probably not playing trap cards. An entire mechanic has been phased out of the game because of how fast we're going.
But the green cards are still played, right? Magic cards? Is that what they're called?
Yeah, spell cards.
Spell cards, yeah.
There's a few like trap cards a lot of trap cards are evolved now, so there's a lot of them that you can actually play directly from your hand.
Oh, as opposed to setting them face down.
Yeah, so like there's usually some like requirement like pay half your life points or if you control no spell and trap cards, you can play this card, and then those same cards usually have like bonus effects or no drawback if you set them. Okay. And I think that's a really good way to go about it.
Yeah.
Before they did that though, they released. Actually, even before trap cards were phased out of the game, they've always had hand traps. You know, like Honest, stuff like that.
Yeah. Like,
you discard it, it's a quick effect discard from your hand. You don't have to commit to the field.
Right.
They've gotten better now. So, like, Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, if your opponent attempts to activate a card that searches something, you can discard that and negate that effect.
It's decent.
It's not as bad as people think. A lot of people want it banned, but I don't think it's as bad as people think, especially because it's unlike a lot of other cards that are problems. It's a hard one per turn.
Yeah.
So if you have multiples in your hand, they're dead.
Right.
You've got one that says, it's not as crazy as you think. You discard this card and reveal one card in your extra deck. If your opponent has any of those cards in their extra deck, they banish them.
Oh. Banish is like exile, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Also.
There's ways to recover from it, but
yeah.
In certain matchups, it can be pretty devastating, actually.
Dope. So, Yu-Gi-Oh is the morale for Yu-Gi-Oh going up now? Or is it still kind of pitted out from...
I think it will go up. So, alongside, like, all this FTK nonsense, the Yu-Gi-Oh products have been, like, pretty killer. I know, like, a lot of... Like you were saying, like, the structure decks. Ever since, like, Dino Smasher's Fury, they've been insane.
Yeah.
So, in fact, I think I actually bought Dino Smasher's Fury for Aegis. That's one of those... A lot of Yu-Gi-Oh players, like, buy 3 of the same structure deck and then make make a deck out of it. You take out like some of the other bad cards and
Right.
mix it. That's one of those like structure decks where you buy 3 of it and you take it to like a locals and you just win because it's like that. It's that good. Oh, they just released another one where you take 3 of it and you go win with it. In fact, they released it yesterday.
Must be nice.
The core sets are like kind of a mixed bag. You've got some things like Soul Fusion where they release the Thunder Dragon archetype, which is meta currently. And then you got things like Savage Strike where unless you're going for the chase cards or what's considered the pack filler, you're probably not getting anything out of it. But casual Yu-Gi-Oh! Has been insanely good for a while. So like I was talking about Savage Strike, I still have 2 boxes of it in there that I need to open.
Nice.
Usually when I found myself buying more boxes lately.
Yeah.
Instead of single cards.
Right.
Like what's considered the pack filler is just like so fun now.
Right.
Usually when I like open up a box, I divide it into like, okay, these are the cards I want to use to build these decks. These are like the chase cards that I should probably like either sell or find a place to put them. And then this is trash. I found myself I opened the pack, I look at the cards, and I put all of it in the keep pile.
Like, I like this.
I like all of it. Oh my gosh. And then I know a lot of people, like a lot of like the competitive players, they say like, because it's like the core set and then there's like a strategy set that comes up with like 3 archetypes. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you get like amazing stuff out of it, like Sky Strikers that have been meta for like 6 months now.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you get like just like these casual rogue strategies that don't do much.
Right.
But those strategies are like so fun.
Yeah.
If you're not playing competitive, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is probably the best it's ever been, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
It's... Oh, and then this is more of a future sense. I can't really say if these are going to succeed or not. But from what we've gotten revealed so far, this looks to be an amazing year for Yu-Gi-Oh! We have reprint sets too, as well as like just general reprints that come in, usually in these like side sets.
Yeah.
They're coming out with well actually no, first. A few years ago they came out with Battles of Legend. That replaced the Gold series, which used to be their like reprint set, where everything was printed in gold rare. A lot of people didn't really like gold rare. It was, I mean, I like it, but
not as pretty.
Yeah. I mean, you get something like Burning Abyss that look amazing in gold rare. But
yeah.
Battles of Legend comes out, and for a while, people didn't believe it existed because the reprints in it were like amazing. At that time, it was the most amazing reprint set that we'd ever seen. They followed it up with next year with like a Battles of Legend 2. It wasn't as amazing, but I mean, when you're trying to follow up something like that, it's
right.
This year they're going to be releasing something called Dual Power. Even though we only know like maybe a fourth of the cards in there, it's already the best reprint set of all time. The value on it is insane. I mean, I can't go into specifics because you don't play Yu-Gi-Oh!
Right.
But you should know, there's currently, of all the cards revealed, let's see, it's like a $30 product. If you pull at least one of the cards that are revealed, if you were to pull it right now, you'd already have the box. Just one of those cards.
How many packs does it come in the box of 30?
Let's see, I believe it's one of those weird sets that only comes with like 4 or 5.
Oh.
But it comes with like 9 card packs. So
Okay.
you pull one of those cards, you made the box today.
That's nice. See, Magic doesn't have anything like that anymore, so probably never again.
I mean, a lot of people complain about like Konami's reprint policy, where they seem to over reprint stuff.
I'm
But like,
on the opposite spectrum of that. I think that even particular products like Magic with their Power 9. I think everything should be reprinted at some point. I don't feel like you should have like reserve list cards that like, oh, but we can't touch that card. It's on the reserve list.
Yeah, I think it's a secondary market thing.
Yeah,
So,
that's exactly what it is.
Like a lot of people, Yu-Gi-Oh is probably like if you're trying to make money off the cards, you're as in terms of like a secondary market, the least value.
Yeah.
Out of any card game. Like even Force of Will is killing them in that regard.
Right.
You can still make money off of it, but you have to sell like early.
Yeah.
Or you have to get like these super rare, either like the YCS prize cards or the ultimate rares and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The things that are like the super rare.
Super rare.
You're not going to find them in like a regular set actually.
Okay.
In fact, they don't print ultimate rares anymore in regular sets. Or ghost rares. At all, actually. Kind of sad, but at the same time, I think that's one of the reasons they were, or if not still are, the best-selling card game.
Yeah.
It's so much cheaper to get into.
Right. Yeah, I'd say a typical standard deck for Magic's probably gonna, if you know, depending on like if you go 2 colors and you want to buy all the fancy lands, I mean, you're looking at anywhere from $4 to $12 per land. So you know, you can have four copies of each. So you're looking at just your mana base, $40 to $50, or $30 to $50, somewhere in that range. That's before you even start thinking about creatures and spells and all that good jazz.
Oh, one thing I do want to end on, for you at least. Aside from like all the FTKs, Yu-Gi-Oh has actually been pretty diverse in terms of meta.
Yeah.
I mean, Sky Strikers has been meta for like 6 months now, but as far as like I think any meta deck in history, that's probably one of the fairest meta decks I've seen ever. You don't lose to it because they had better cards. You lose to it because the player was playing out of their mind. It's also one of the decks with like the highest skill ceiling.
Yeah.
Because if you make a mistake in Sky Strikers, you die.
It's understandable.
You compare it to like decks like Thunder Dragons, where their biggest win con is summoning a monster that prevents you from searching, or Altergeist that just like locks you out of the game, literally.
You can't play cards. Watch me play solitaire.
And in fact, actually, that's been a trend with a lot of meta decks lately. Just locking your opponent out of the game.
Yeah.
Either that or just killing them pretty early. But like Sky Strikers, as much gripe as people give it, it's one of the decks that encourages you to interact.
Yeah.
Like a Yu-Gi-Oh game.
See the sun arise and fire.